Well, how do I look leaving? It must be welded into your mind. And if practice makes perfect, then I'm leaving you perfect this time. Over and over and over again, I tried to do right by you. Over and over, the things I do prove to be over and over untrue. So I'll take the blame, I'll bear the shame. It ain't your fault, oh darling, it's all mine. And if practice makes perfect, then I'm leaving you perfect this time. If practice makes perfect, then I'm leaving you perfect this time. So you can see that they're not the identical melodies, certainly, but
Definitely with
the
the same
influence
heart.
of the two songs is inescapable, I think, in terms of, of the one song on the other. I don't know that, that Larry wrote with that as a specific influence, but I hear that,
Yeah. Dwight Yoakam's in the studio. Morning Becomes Eclectic on KCRW. I'm Chris Doritas. Dwight's appearing this Thursday, Friday at Universal Amphitheater. That's the 13th and 14th of June. And, I think it's interesting you pointed out that really it was about singing for you first in terms of music and performance. And, it make all the more sense then why when you first came out to L.A., when you eventually hooked up with Pete Anderson, that it was a great marriage.
Yeah, very much so. And Pete's identified very quickly that my instrument was my voice. That I've often lamented I'm not a better guitar player because of my voice. And his theory is that singers tend to learn to use the guitar as a means of as an enabler, if you will, for their voice. It's there to accompany that. And so he and I, when we hooked up, Pete has a great ability to perceive musical talent very clearly, and to focus the strength of that talent, in a way that allows you to maximize it as a form of expression. I think he's done that with a lot of artists he's worked with, and
but
I know with me it's been a
it's been more of a solid together.
Ongoing
relationship.
We've been amused for each other.
Yeah, the way I heard the story was that when you first hooked up, you were sleeping on the floor of his laundry room.
Well, at one point I'd moved out. I'd gone through some stuff where I'd made the fatal mistake of moving out of a place that I'd had for several years, and kind of sharing a domestic environment with a girlfriend, and didn't really work out very well. And within a month or two, I was taking myself out of that situation, and ended up kind of out of my truck for a time. And ended up over at Pete's. Stayed there for a couple, 3 months.
This is right when you guys first met, right?
Well, it was about a year and a half after we'd met. It was a year, so we were friends with that point. We'd worked together, and we were collaborators by that point. We were working in concert together, and we'd already begun to focused on what we were going to try to achieve together, and we were working with each other. So I ended up, on his floor. That was kind of the rock bottom, moment for both of us in terms of being on the outside of the music business.
Yeah, but that's where it seemed to, like, you hit bottom. From there, you
well, we knew we had nothing else to lose, and neither of us had anything to gain from each other but our mutual support of one another.
Did you ever consider doing like a hymns album?
We've talked about, Pete and I've talked about it several times. I've written some things. I mean, Barry Mee's an example of one. Hold On to God is a very overt example of there are religious of a song that could be considered a hymn-like or gospel-like song. There's such duality, I think, in the world and the way we live in our lives and human beings and human nature, that I'll never not, I think, be influenced by the spiritual exposure I had in my life. And
do you consider yourself a religious person? Or
very
maybe,
spiritual person.
Yeah,
I became very disenchanted with organized religion in my late teens. I saw the split and breakup of a congregation that I had been raised in, and became very disillusioned. And in that disillusionment, I lost my desire to, for a short time, to actually, you know what? I guess I didn't lose my desire. I lost the direction that I had and had to rediscover a new direction for my life spiritually, and what I feel is a more it's the correct direction for my life. It's a more accurate direction, a more acutely applicable kind of appraisal of Christianity and theology and spirituality.
Well, I would think that your connection with your muse and your performance and your inspirations there is a real direct line to that spirituality.
I'll never escape the connection to my own spirit and to the universal spirituality that we all share as human beings, to something that exists beyond this place and this plane of existence as we know it, through music. I'll never escape that connection. And I realized when somebody asked me a couple of years ago, well, do you meditate or chant or do anything, like in an Eastern kind of, metaphysical manner? And I said, well, no, I've never done that. I mean, I was discovering again and looking into all those aspects of spiritual exploration in the last 5-6 years. It was, discovering where the Western and Eastern kind of philosophies coexist or separate from one another. And when I was asked this question, I immediately responded, well, no. And a few minutes later, in discussing music, though, I realized and I corrected, I restated my answer, and I said, you know what, I guess I always have used my music as a source of having a meditative place to go. I realized that when I sit and sing, from the time I was a child, it was a means of escaping this plane of existence, and it really is my chanting, if you will. I sometimes just make sounds and noises. It's just a form of emotional release and expression. It's very cathartic. It's